Holy cow. Are you guys excited to meet that? Because whatever that was so rad. And here we are. I'm going to mic drop right to his name, Dr. Dre, DeAndre Evans. You guys, that just hyped me up. I don't watch those trailers before I come on live because I don't know like what vibe my creative designer is going to pull. I think she nailed it.
No, she killed it. I was over here so impressed. I was like, yo, where can I get this from? It's like a movie trailer here. Like, who is this guy? Who are these people?
I know you look so slab, so put together. It's so good.
Like, I need to go change. I just had a t-shirt on. Like, this is not right. Let me figure this out here.
This is rad. You guys, I am so excited to introduce you to a new friend of mine as well. DeAndre Evans is here from Clubhouse, but really he's here from Level Up Daily, which is a number top 100 in the podcasting world. I'm going to say I'm coming for you, but I don't want it to sound competitive. I want it to sound like we're in this together, brother, sister. Let's do the thing.
Let's do it.
I love it. So top 100 business podcast. He's also an author of the podcast Mastery. So he knows what he's doing right here. And so I'm excited to just jump into conversation, talk about your backstory, all the things, because I know that there's way more that is to you and your life and your testimony. So jump on in and introduce yourself beyond what I just did.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate the intro. I mean, you pretty much nailed it. And I always love the question of, where to start, because it's like, where do we go? Right. So I know for me, just to hop in podcast, and I'm gonna go back and forth here. So for me, I got into podcasting probably like 3 or 4 years ago. I learned out from this guy, you probably know, Gary V. Right. Yeah, everyone here, man. Gary V, see his name, he's crushing it. Right. And so I was listening to his podcast because I'm a big auditory learner. And so for me, I was listening in and he was like yelling at me like, yo, you need to go start this podcast type of thing. I'm like, okay, relax, calm down. I'm going to do it. And so one day I just found myself, sitting on my bed. I had like an old iPhone 5 at the time. Don't judge me. I don't know why I kept it. I just had it. I had an old pair of headphones as well.
Hey, people will pay a lot of money for that these days for Clubhouse if they have an Android. They can get that. They can get that iPhone 5.
Right. That's true. So I know for me, tuning in, I actually hopped on, and I think literally within the first 3 to 5 episodes that I put out, I had no idea what I was talking about. I had no idea who would listen. I was kind of nervous. I was like, is this going to work? So I was doubting myself, right? And so when I did launch the first 3 to 5 episodes, I had about 5,000 people tune in. And for me, I was like, whoa, like what just happened here? Like, are you guys really listening to this podcast? Because I'm talking about absolutely nothing on here, right? So I'm not sure what they were hearing or what they saw in me, but all of a sudden I started to grow and I started to hear the replies and the DMs and the messages that was flooding in. And they're like, yo, you should keep this up. So I started taking it more seriously. And over time, I started building the brand, started building the name, and I've been able to interview some very well-known, world-class entrepreneurs, Emmy, Grammy Award winners from Elena Cardone, David Meltzer, Mario Armstrong, Alex Wolff, and so many other people. And so for me, I was like, wow, this is a platform for me to grow and really build true connections. But to take it all the way back, right? Because that's like the fast forward version.
Right. That's okay. We like the claim to fame, but I want to know. I want to know to do. Where did it start? Where did the concept of level up get developed, right?
Yeah.
So DeAndre was a little minion.
Man, running around in Detroit, Michigan is where I'm from. So I'm based out of Detroit, Michigan, hometown. It is super cold here. I'm still here, but I do travel often. And for me, I grew up in a single parent household. So I was staying with my mom and my sister at the time. And, she did the best that she could with what she had. I know Detroit, if you ever been to Detroit at all?
I have not, no.
So it's nothing really here, but, like I said, it's super cold. It's kind of like dark and dim, to be honest. There's not a lot of resource and opportunity. So I know for me growing up, I had to get creative and really figure out, how to make things happen. So I would have like old Pokemon cards. And right now it's like a big thing, right? Everyone's selling Pokemon cards.
My 7-year-old would pay a lot of money for it, all of his allowance.
Right. And so I had Pokemon cards I was selling. I used to draw images of like animals and buildings. It's like a hidden talent that I have. And I would sell it to, family members and friends that would really enjoy that type of thing. And then from there, like a light bulb went off. I was like, wow, I can make money off of my talent. Like at a young age, I was probably like 6 or 7. I was thinking this way. I was like, oh, this is cool. Right. And so over time, I was like, man, I want to have my own business. I want to do my own thing. But growing up in that household, and to be honest, I grew up around a lot of women. So for me, at least, we really didn't know how to start a business. No one in my family had a business per se on their own. So I had to like teach myself business etiquette. right? Like what to do, what not to say type of thing. So I will watch literally television shows, whether it's from like Tom and Jerry all the way
Nice.
to like some old school Lifetime show my grandfather used to watch. And I will pay attention to how people interact with each other, how the employer would treat the employee, how the employee would treat the customer, and so on and so forth. And over time, I started to build my confidence. And then next thing you know, Level Up Daily came about as I started to transition in high school. I was thinking about my name, like what I'm about, what I'm going to do. And everyone always said, hey, Dre, you always, speak so well and you're very polite. And you ever thought about mentoring young men and women? I was like, no, because for one, I'm in high school. Like, who's going to listen to me?
And they're younger than me. What are they going to do when they're 7 years old?
Right. Like, what are we talking about? Fast forward here. I'm like, no. So I just kind of like dismissed it. But I always thought about it in my mind. I was like, level up, level up. Okay, let's get to the next level. And then the daily part came in when I started getting so much feedback from random people who would hear me speak or just be out in public, like, hey, I like your style, young man, or X, Y, and Z, or certain things. And I'm like, yeah, it's like every day I do this, right? Not to like brag or be, ego, like super high, but I would just pay attention to what people said about me. And I was like, oh, okay. And all of a sudden the brand was formed, Level Up Daily.
That is so awesome. And I want you guys to hear like the intimacy of that experience and how it really was a process and a progression. And it didn't just like naturally just out of the blue come to him. And even if the idea came to him, he was still in the forging process for the many years prior to. And so many people are like, oh, he's an overnight success. He's got 5,000 downloads. Well, he didn't just do that, y'all. He was watching Tom and Jerry. Okay. If you can learn business from Tom and Jerry, you are somebody when you are the whatever age you are watching Tom and Jerry. So I love that that's a part of your story. I also love that you've like taken it to this level that you've been able to really formulate relationships and have conversations with people that you likely would never anticipate having been in the room with. Right. So talk about when you actually did this and what year did Level Up Daily actually launch?
Yeah, officially, as far as the business, over the last 5 years.
Okay. And when did the podcast come out?
Over the last going on 4 years.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. So you did the business first, then the podcast. Okay. I'm like putting my wheels in motion here. Give me a lens of when you jumped into Level Up Daily and you jumped right into the mentorship side of things.
Yeah. So really Level Up Daily is a digital agency. It's a hub, and I treat it like an umbrella to other things that I have. So we really are like a social media marketing agency primarily. So we focus on helping small businesses grow their brand through upscale, distinctive, and high converting graphic and web design. And though from there, I always had people come in, whether it's clients or people that I knew, and say, hey, man, you got some great things going on. Have you ever thought about, again, mentoring? It's always mentoring for me. Like, have you ever thought about showing people what to do or how to do this? I'm like, no, not really. But over time, I started to really cultivate a following. I had like, at the time, a couple of years back, it was like 30,000 overall through all platforms. And for me, I was like, whoa, that's huge, right? Yeah. I was doing so much stuff. And now obviously it's grown. But what happened was I started to attract some very successful people in my business due to my work. I let my work speak for itself. And so, as I'm designing websites and doing graphic designs, my name started being bounced around from, one room to the next. And hey, have you heard of this guy? Have you heard of this? And all of a sudden I found myself in these rooms that's very intimate, very, very secure, and people who are making 6, 7, 8, 9 figures. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, ooh, what am I doing here? Type of thing, like, how did I stumble upon this? And so, for me, I started to tune in and listen to these amazing conversations. And I was like, man, it would be great to have like that little fly on the wall type of mentality, just to be like, yo, bring some people in who can really benefit from this conversation and not just myself. And then what happened was that's how Level Up Daily podcast was transpired and created. So for us, it was more so, the development of providing the tools and resources people need to level up in their career and life.
So awesome. I love that so much. So there's so many questions I want to go with. I think one of those is kind of going back to where you started in the sense of what you were actually doing, realizing that you were doing it yourself and you were walking the walk before you ever talk the talk. And people would recognize that in you. And then they would call it out even in high school. Like, that's so wild to me. So obviously being from where you were and having the resources or lack thereof of the connectivity to people who were leveling it up. How did you activate that in your own life, either from like a morning routine perspective or obviously the education perspective? You were kind of taking that lens even when you're watching cartoons. So tell me more about that mindset or that pace or that heart set that kind of deposited into your spirit.
Yeah, it started super early for me. I know my mom played a big part in this, and I always give her love and kudos anytime I'm on the camera because she's like, "You said something about me, right?" So, she
Hi,
instilled in
Mama.
me, right? Right.
We
She
love
instilled,
you.
right, and so she really instilled some principles in me to be respectful, be honest, and stay committed. And then along with these three things, I kind of combined it in my own way to really push myself to connect with other people. So for me, just starting off on how I really set my mind and set my day is that I've always been a big advocate of writing things down. Like I can't think correctly if it's not on paper. If I don't see it, I'm gonna forget it, right? And I do my best to try to remember things, but it's so much happening. And so for me, the first thing was setting a good calendar, right? Which is something super easy, right? To set and save, like, well, of course, right? But so many of us really miss this step and they wonder why they're not getting the results that they're looking for. So for me, it was setting that tone, setting the calendar, writing down my daily goals in the morning, make sure I hit them throughout the day, and also checking them at night to make sure that I actually accomplished them. And if I didn't per se, because I can't say I'm perfect, right? So if I did miss one, I will actually roll it over to the very top of the morning the next day to make sure I cross it off my list. And so for me, it started to create this momentum and started to build my mindset of like, okay, because there's two ways that momentum can go in, right? It can go up or go down. So if you procrastinate a lot, right, you're going to tend to go down that left path. But if you tend actually go and dive into momentum inside of focusing on what you really want and admire, your momentum starts to go up and your passion starts to kick in. So for me, I started really paying attention to what I was drawn to, and it allowed me to really connect effectively with so many amazing people.
That's so good. You guys, there are people on this call that were just on my coaching call a little bit ago, and we were literally having this exact same conversation. I opened my planner and was like, you guys, I'm not lying to you when I tell you I do this every single morning. It's a part of creating that habitual experience so that you can activate and flow from a knowing of what does my day look like? What are my most important tasks? What goal have I set out? So Elena Cardone, and I actually have her book on my nightstand right now. Her husband's is a little bit closer to home because it's actually in my where I get ready in my mirror moment every day. Because his 10x rule has literally shifted my mind towards what everyone always called SMART goals, right? So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Grant says, no, set unrealistic goals. So tell me about how that conversation or that knowing has really put you into the place of where you are now.
In terms of setting the goals,
goals, your example of setting goals, are your goals unrealistic, or do you feel like they're always attainable, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I always strive. I'm big on the 10X as well. Shout out to Elena and Grant. They're amazing people as well. And for me, I always set goals to make sure that I'm able to accomplish them through baby steps, right? Because I know so many people want to go from A to Z so quickly and be that overnight success, but that's just not reality, right? And so for me, I tell a lot of people, I tell students, I tell clients this as well, is that, you're not going to master, your life in one day. So you really have to relax and learn to master the day, right? And just do that so I take things slowly, step by step, whether it's me just getting up on time, super simple, right? Whether it's 7, 8 in the morning, following through to either, looking at my to-do list in the morning, making sure I'm tapping in with my team, my growth, my sales, checking my funnels, right? Or even transition all the way into the daytime as far as the evening goes to make sure I'm doubling down on my workflow, my follow-up and things of that nature. So for me, I set realistic goals pretty well. I don't overshoot. If I say I want to make 20,000 this month, 50,000 this month. Those that for me are some steps that I know I can hit if I put in the right work and dedication to it.
That is so crazy. Literally, this actual meetup, even if it's just for you and I, is so good because those are the exact two numbers that I dropped for my example earlier. Really? I was like 20 or 50. And it's what happens when you don't get to this mark, this 50 mark? You actually still exceed the 20 because you're reaching beyond what this lower expectation is. And I don't want to live my life in a subpar example because I want to be the odd. I want to be the oddball. I'll be the peculiar person. I'll stand out and do that job because that means that I'm putting in the more work. That means that I am exampling and now have tools that I can pass and serve others with in the process of their development. And so I love that you are activating this, and I want to hear specifically how from a mentorship side of things, because I'm assuming you finally said yes to that ask. Like you finally were like, all right, because you said clients and students. So talk to me about that example and how you are leading that front.
Yeah. So for me, I love, my followers, my listeners, my audience overall. I take pride in everything, especially with my podcast. I have a lot of students that I say through my podcast course, or those who bought my book and actually opted into, my SMS or email marketing type of strategy. So for me, I really like to lead by example. I would never tell them to do something I wouldn't do. And I really double down on that, and I stand behind it, because a lot of people, and I heard this from my good friend, Tony Watley, who I just had on my show as well. Great guy. He was like, it's important that you do what you say and say what you do, type of thing. Right. And so many people don't really hold up to that standard. They'll say they're going to do something, but miss out on the opportunity, or they say, hey, or come up with 1,000 excuses, whether they dog ate their homework, their mom said this, right? It's some stressful. It's like, yo, I understand life happens, but you have to get on track in order to take control of your life. So I tell all of my students, listen, stay focused and stay locked into what you're going to do and thrive towards, because if you don't, you're going to build this habit of actually doing the opposite of what you're trying to attract. So we set goals of 20 to 50,000, right? So I tell them, make small, incremental goals in the beginning, and set a small target. Again, whether it's just making a phone call, like you say, to schedule it out, or connecting with a stranger, maybe you're going for a walk, to meditate, to breathe, to digest everything, set something that's feasible for you. And then over time, start to scale up. So for me, I always tell them, listen, follow what I do and not necessarily listen to what I say all the time, right? It's probably the best thing to go about, because you're going to learn a lot through someone's actions versus someone telling you to do. And I know, from Clubhouse and all these type of rooms and social media, it gets a little skeptical, right? And so I'm always big on saying, double down, watch what people do, not what they say.
That's such good wisdom, you guys. I wrote it down in the chat, so copy and paste it, put it on your screen right now, save it, because I think it's so critical for us to know this and actually walk in it, as we are not only setting the example, but even as a mentee. So here I am, like, learning from you, gleaning from you, taking those things and then activating them in my own life based on an example. I mean, we even talked about that when you got on the StreamYard. You're like, yo, I'm taking notes. This is awesome, right? It's like the knowing that at any given moment, if you're willing to listen and your eyes are open to watch, you are in a receiving mode. Your hands are open and you are willing to take. But if you are in this experience, and especially as a coach, I'm sure you've experienced this with other people, if your fists are closed, there is no interaction. You might talk, but you aren't actually serving anybody anything. And therefore, them coming back to you isn't really as exciting. But when your hands are open and you're in this constant exchange, I'll give to you, you give to me, let's go back and forth. I mean, this is exactly the way that we should emulate our relationship even with God.
Absolutely.
What if we show up in prayer and we're like, you can't have this side of my life, but I want. That is not fun for God.
Right.
And it's surely not fun for us, because we look like a beggar.
Exactly. Now that's a big thing too.
Right?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually spoke about that a while back. That a lot of people, don't necessarily know how to pray per se. That they ask in a way of begging, right? And it's like learning how to articulate your message in terms of not saying, hey, God, if you just do this one thing for me one time, I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to just do that. I'm going to be better here, right? That's like, the little begging mentality. Instead, you should be like, well, I'm thankful for this. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful for X, Y, and Z. I would love to become better. I ask that you order my steps in whatever I'm doing. It's really putting the affirmation out there. And so I definitely, relate to that 1000%.
It's so good. And it really emulates itself. Remember, anything that we're teaching you now, you might be thinking of it from a perspective of business, or even just a perspective of faith, or maybe a relationship perspective, but it really goes into play with every single thing. If I am out there with this passion to serve businesses, to serve entrepreneurs, to serve churches, to serve ministry leaders, and I am begging for their interaction, for them to come on as a client, it doesn't taste very well, doesn't sit well with people. And so if I come from a way of servanthood, again, hands open, and I say, how can I serve you today? How can I show up to support you in this way? I never, ever, ever have to ask them to give me something back, because it's just something that's generosity is implanted in us, because we are designed by a generous God.
Amen. Amen.
right?
We in church now.
Yeah, any
We in
day,
church now.
anytime. You call me, I'm there. I'm there. But
I love it.
it's just so necessary. And this is like my passion, right? Is to
Mhm.
realize that we get to activate. We have the opportunity and the chance to activate every single day in the fullness of
Yeah.
who we are, not just, and I'm wearing a hat right now for all the podcast listeners, you can't see it, but not just wearing the one hat
Mhm.
the one day, but
Mhm.
truly showing up in who you are, every single piece, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, in everything that we do, especially in our businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree.
So good. So tell me more. I want to hear about like your level up. So we've talked about like your morning routine. We've talked about your planner. We've talked about your goals, whether they're unrealistic, realistic, attainable, all those things. Tell me more about who is DeAndre Evans. And like, you're a big vision person. I know that for sure. So let's go there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm an introvert by nature. I'm just gonna throw that out
No,
there.
no.
Yeah, like you probably wouldn't expect it, but I really am. Like I'm really very zen unto myself. Like I like to be in my little peaceful state, right? I really don't go out of my way too much, right,
I'm
all the
all up
time.
in your space, aren't I? I'm sorry.
No,
Sort
I
of.
love it.
I'm
It's
sort of
fine.
sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. I love it. I know, like for me, I'm really, like I say, I'm really to myself. But overall, I know over the past couple of years, I've been learning more about myself, especially during this quarantine. Like I've been really tapping into my intuitive side, like really paying attention to people, myself, and things of the way the world is working. I'm a big influencer. I hate the term, but it's like what I am and what people call it. Like I say my superpower is influence, right? The power to influence through my voice, my message, and cultivating a relationship with so many amazing people that I do that in a way that's very significant and allow people to trust me enough, right, to leave their imprint on me on what success is, and also to do the same thing upon them on what success is for me. But to deploy a message out that is relatable to so many people, I think has been my go-to. So for me, I just double down on my beliefs. Like I said, I really go by three things. If I'll be super honest and transparent here, three principles that really allowed me to scale to get me to where I am and make me who I am today, which is number one was passion, right?
Yes.
So passion for me is everything. And I know at the time when I first got started with Level Up Daily and my business, my brand, like I had family members, I had friends that doubted me. Things were not working, things were going left. And then, boom, a spark happened. They started to really see the vision, right? Because God doesn't really give the vision to everyone. He gives it to you. And so, I had to learn that as well through not seeking opinions, but learning how to seek counsel. So I will
Good.
always, again, go to family members and friends, and I'll be like, hey, I got this great idea. This is going to be amazing. We can make some money. And they'd be like, I don't think that's going to work. Or I heard someone else said that. And I'm like, wait, I thought you loved me. I don't like, I feel a little hurt. Right. And I'm thinking to myself, but I had to understand it's not that they didn't love me. It's just that they didn't know or didn't see the vision that I had. And so for me, I had to seek counsel from those who are experienced, those who have accomplished what I'm trying to accomplish. And over time, again, I started to build my relationship with some amazing people. And so for me, the next pillar outside of my passion was really patience. Right. After not seeing no success month after month, right, I was struggling, didn't make any money. I was like, I got to sleep on a couch type of thing. I'm hopping around traveling, trying to make ends meet. It was times where I actually had to sleep in hotel lobbies because I didn't have enough money when I went to certain conferences to get a room. Wow. But I really stayed persistent in my pursuit because even though I felt that pain and rejection, I just knew that it was going to work and pan out for me. So over time, that really started to shape me mentally and help cultivate who I am today. So those would be the three main pillars that really blossom DeAndre into what he is.
That is gold right there, y'all. I'm putting this in the chat. It is so good. Passion, patience, and persistence. And we hear all about how consistency is key. But I think without that passion being your why, being what you're stemming from, being what gets you out of bed in the morning, persistency is actually void, and therefore burnout is inevitable. Right. And so it's so critical that we come from a place of patience and passion, because patience too is like, that's a hard game. I think that's harder for me than passion. I'm passionate. I'll feel passion. But when it comes to patience, I'm like, oh, this is so hard because we live in this microwave society. We live in a highlight reel. We live in this place where everybody is at something. Right. And you're like, what about me? Am I even known? I get the one like on that post and I'm like, come on. And they're like, oh, I just hit 80 million views. And I'm like, what? what? You were just brushing your cat. Like, that's not even fair. There's no passion in that. So it's like, how and how do you stay patient month by month, especially if you're sitting in a conference that's in a hotel room that's not actually a room and it's somebody else's space, and they're like, get up, you can't sit here. Tell me about that patience process for you, and does your faith parallel? I would hope and assume so, but how do you practice patience?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things for me is to really hone in on God's gift and his mercy to me. Like, I know that, God wouldn't lead me somewhere, down some street, some valley, wherever, and not have it already mapped out. So for me, I just take a deep breath and just realize, okay, again, I'm not going to master my life in one day type of thing, but I have to understand that even though it takes me a little longer to accomplish something, doesn't mean I necessarily failed. And I think that's where a lot of people get that little hiccup in patience, right? The process. And talking about the process, like, a lot of the times people may trust the process, but they don't trust themselves, right? And so for me, I had to learn to trust myself and the process, but in doing so and trusting myself, I knew that my abilities, based on either what I knew intuitively, right, or through what people told me, or family, friends, strangers, whoever, I knew I had something, I had a spark. It was just doubling down on that and believing in myself enough to know that, I can accomplish anything I put my mind to. And I know a lot of people feel like that, right, by nature. Like, you feel like you're great at something, it, right? Just like, what is that thing? And I know for some people who may have a hard time discovering their passion and their purpose, right? One of the beautiful things you can do is just create a list, right? Get a piece of paper and create a list and draw a line right down the middle, right? And on the left-hand side, I want you guys to just write out everything that you enjoy, you like, you feel like you're great at, you love, enjoy. Just write it all out. It can be 2 things. It can be 100. It doesn't matter, right? Just write them all out. Take your time. And then on the other side of that, I want you to write out exactly what you can do to monetize off of your gifts and your passions and things that you really admire. And so as you go down your list, whether you love to play sports and you're like, I'm not really great at basketball, cross it off, right? Even though you love it. Maybe it's just a hobby. Like, oh, I'm a great writer. Okay, we can circle that one. Like, how can we monetize that? Potentially maybe write books, start a course, do a podcast type of thing, educating people. And so for me, it was just finding that system to develop in order to go ahead and hone on that passion and that ability for me.
That's so good. Okay, so we really are 2 Ps. Okay, so I do something where the monetization piece is kind of what we cultivate together, but I do the same exact lesson, draw a piece of paper, put a line down the middle, and I actually add this element, which I think would be really critical. And you've probably done and even do in this passion place, but it's actually putting a language to it. Pains, things that get you fired up, things that piss you off, things that you've overcome, the testimonial points of your life that you were in the alley or you were sitting in the hotel room without a hotel, right? All of those pains on one side met with your passions on the other. Again, that list is exhaustive, just like DeAndre said. And then what happens? The monetization actually occurs versus you having to come up with an idea of like, how do I monetize basketball? How do I monetize writing and basketball? How does that go together? Because I think you and I are perfect examples that you get to utilize all of your passions on your pursuit of purpose. You don't have to choose one. Okay. So utilize them all because God gave them to you for a reason. So now the monetization exists by connecting the dot from the pain point to the passion point, based on the transformation that you and you alone had.
Absolutely.
Because we could have pain around a health ailment. And then the passion is that I love to share my physical well-being with someone. But this journey, the journey that takes you from point A to point B, looks drastically different. This person discovered a pill, and now they sell a little blue pill. This person discovered a diet plan, and now they sell a diet plan. This person discovered a physical workout plan, and now you have a physical workout plan. But what is it for you? Did you have a health crisis? You got cancer, and now you had to show up for your diet in a new way. Otherwise, you weren't showing up at all for much longer. And now you have a passion, which is to teach other people about your transformation out of cancer. So pain, passion, monetization. This is gold, y'all. People pay us thousands of dollars for this conversation. Take it, take notes, start it, activate it, do the thing, and let this be the fuel to your fire, to your transformation.
Absolutely.
So I
Amen.
love this. I never put
Yeah,
monetization to it. So I love that.
yeah, I mean, it's a crucial part to add in because I know, to be honest, everyone wants to make money. They want to scale. They want to do something. And listen, we got a family. Just being realistic here, And so you got to think about things and put them in perspective. That's going to make sense for you, but also make sure that's aligned with your principles, again, your values and what you believe in. So that is a big, big thing.
It's so good. This is gold. I love it so much. So I asked you before, and I want you to go a little bit further with me because
Sure.
you're in this place, you're doing well, you're connecting with amazing people, you have the top 100 podcasts, right? And so like, what's the next step for you? Where you go next? Where can we follow you next?
Yeah, I'm gonna be everywhere. Like I'm not gonna
Yes,
lie.
yes.
I'm pedal to the metal. Like that's been my mentality since obviously 2020, but 2020 went a little left for most people, right? And so 2021 at the top of my list. Like gas on the pedal, full speed. So what I really want to get into now is public speaking. I'm definitely gonna get into that space. I know I use Clubhouse as an outlet now, right? To practice, to get up on stage, to raise my hand, ask questions, to get into the flow of things. Doing a lot more interviews like this with you. This amazing Fit and Faith podcast, right? And the next true step is to really cultivate a community that I'm building right now, but to really allow people to tune in from all parts of the world, right? Because as a podcaster, we're able to reach thousands of people from everywhere. Like I'm based in like over 20 plus countries right now, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of downloads, right? And it's like, wow, all these people are tuning in to hear me per se, right? A little dude from Detroit, right? And all these amazing people who I bring on the show. And it's like, how can I be more value to them? So my next step is to create programs, create workshops, to do one-on-one sessions, potentially like this with you and other people, right? To share insight and bring that value. So for me, that's the big goal.
That's so awesome. I love that so much. I want to hear, do you have any stages booked that we can see you on so far for 2021?
Yeah, so right now I can't say just because
Come on.
just because we're we're in some agreement process.
Okay,
But
that's so rad.
yeah, I'm definitely in the process. So I would just say, to stay up to date, just follow me, just tune in to be the best bet. But a lot of the people, I will say this, a lot of the people that I will have on my podcast soon will be people I'll be running with on stage. So
Nice.
putting that out there. Yeah.
So good. Tony was just on mine from 365 Driven. He was awesome. So I love the connectivity of Clubhouse and how it's providing this additional access, the seat at the table, if you will, breakfast with millionaires. You got to tune in 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. Yeah. Glenn Lundy, he rocks. I do think one that would really be helpful for you, and you might have already be on it, is PodFest Global or PodFest in Florida coming up in June. Have you gone to their conference yet?
I have not, but I've been told about it, and a lot of people say you should go. So I might have to tap in here.
You gotta not only go, you gotta speak. You gotta get on that stage. I'll introduce you to the guys who started it. They're amazing, Chris and Andrew. And again, that was just a vision that started with 13 people, and now they're about to hit a Guinness World Book record again. Last year, they hit Guinness World Book for the number of virtual attendees at a conference. Okay. This year, they're trying to top that. Actually, they're trying to 10x that. Come on, Grant Cardone. And then they're going to do the same thing in their in-person experience. So you guys, you can use actually the code CORE and get a free ticket to that. Just literally CORE gets you $50 off any ticket or just direct access for free. I'll be speaking there on March 2nd. So that's going to be fun. But I want to go to Florida. I want to be on a stage with you.
You're right. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's get it into fruition. So talk to me one more question, and I'll let you go because I know you've got lots of things to get on it, right? And to continue to level up today. How do you do this physically, mentally, and spiritually on a consistent basis? What do each of those facets of your day or week or goals look like?
Yeah, so I know for me physically, every single day I get up and try to do my best to get up on time. And I like to work out a lot. So it's either 4 or 5 times a week. I get active. I think it gets the juices flowing, the creativity, right? And I think that is a very valuable point to make, because a lot of people may sleep on that idea and think, I don't need to work out. But, when you work out, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me. I may be a little weird. But
no, I think it's everyone.
Like, right? It's like when you work out, right? And it's like you're done. It's like, man, I'm tired, but I got a lot of energy, right? It's like that type of thing. So I really like enjoy that aspect of it because it really pushes me to continue throughout the day outside of me just taking my power nap, right? Just getting a little refresher button in there. But also mentally, like I'm a big advocate again on learning through audio. So I read a lot of books, or listen to a lot of books, I should say, through audio books. Whether it's Rich Dad Poor Dad, ABCs to Success by Bob Proctor. Shoot, I might tap into a couple of podcasts, and really see what's going on there. So I really like to be a big learner, not a speaker per se. Like I don't mind speaking and sharing the stage with other people, but taking a step back to learn, that's where obviously the secret sauce is. Everyone in this society now, especially, on Clubhouse, everyone's speaking over each other, yelling, trying to say their point. I'm just like, I'm the guy that's in the back, like, I'm cool. I'll just wait when it dies down some. That's me. And so for me, that's been a big thing mentally. Spiritually, I definitely tap in, as much as possible. I do a lot of affirmations every single day in the morning. I wake up, I play my little soothing sounds. I sit there for about 20, 30 minutes. I'll say my affirmations, whether it's just, successful people are attracted to me type of thing. My income will double, quadruple, in the next coming months, in the days and weeks. I really say certain things to myself. I make little key notes on my mirror. I'm putting everything out there right now. I don't know why I'm sharing all this, but
sharing all this, right? This podcast. This is all the things. I love the real life. This is real and raw, y'all. Take note.
Yeah. And so I would write like messages on my mirror and say, I will make X amount of dollars by the end of this month per se, and really like hone in on that. And I will see it every single day. So I have it on like multiple mirrors around my house to just be like, oh, look here. Oh, look here. So I don't miss, my goal. And I mean, in all aspects, I just do my best to really run towards my fear, I guess you can say. So I know a lot of people, tend to run away from it, but I found that success lies beyond the fear. And if you're afraid of something, the only way to get over it is to tackle it head on. So I keep that in mind through all areas, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, everything. Like, if I'm afraid, I'm going to go at it. And I would honestly, and throw this out here as a little story. I was in the room in Clubhouse. I'm not sure we was probably in that same room or not. Probably so. But I was in the room and it was people like Grant Cardone. Everyone was up on stage. I just hopped in there because I saw people in there. It was a great topic. I was curious. And so I saw the stage going on and they was telling people, yo, raise your hand. If you have a question, feel free to come on up and ask. And I was looking in the room. It's like 500, 600 people in there. I'm like, no one's raising their hand. Like, are you serious? You got Grant up here. You got all these multimillionaires. Like, yo, take advantage of this. And so for me, I was like, even though I was a little nervous to throw myself out there, I was like, man, it's only going to benefit me if I do. So I tapped in to the little icon right in the bottom right-hand corner. If you're not on Clubhouse, there's a little button in the right-hand corner. It's a little high five. I tapped on that thing. I was, boom, instantly bought up, right? And I didn't have a question. I didn't have a question at all. So I was just going with the flow of things to see how the conversation was going to go. And so by the time it got to me, they asked me, hey, DeAndre, what's your question? How can we help? I was like, oh, okay, moment of truth here, right? So I thought of a question on the spot. And this is the question I said, word for word. I said, what sacrifices did you have to make in order to be successful and network with other successful people, right? And so when I asked that question, I had 5, 6 different people tune in like, hey, I want to say something. Hey, I want to say something. That's a great question. And over time, what happened was, which I thought was pretty cool, because you never know who's listening in some of these rooms. So you really want to be considerate on how you present yourself and what you ask. So I didn't necessarily ask it for myself per se, as far as that question. I asked it for the audience. And I stated that I think, that question do a lot of justice for the audience. So I kept other people in mind. And what happened was literally after I asked that question, everyone chimed in. I said, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. 30 seconds later, not only did my following grow, but a guy by the name Glenn Stern. If you don't know who Glenn Stern is, right? Billionaire. He was the main dude that played on the show Undercover Billionaire with Grant Cardone that he's on. He was the first dude that did it. And he followed me on Instagram. And now I am in the process of building a relationship with him and potentially get him on my podcast. So I would say, always throw yourself out there, throw your hand up, tackle your fears, because you never know what will come out of it.
That is such good wisdom. And if you are on Clubhouse, this is Clubhouse expertise, wisdom. Take it to heart. And I honestly think we can show up in every place like that, because you really circled back to what we talked about before, which is keeping your hands open. If you got up on stage and you thought solely about yourself, what question can I ask? What can I ask? What can I ask? Or I need to connect with this person. You hear that on the person who opens their mouth on Clubhouse, because instead of doing what they've asked you to do, which is they're asking you to ask a question. What is your question, they say, and people respond with their entire life story. That wasn't the question. We love you. We want to hear your why. We want to know your why, but that's another platform. That's another time.
Mhm.
These people have created this time and this space for us to learn, for us to keep our mouth closed and zippered up, right?
Right.
And yet you showed up and without question, which is another lesson in and of itself. Like you said, run towards your fear. You have nothing to say. You don't know what's going to happen, but you have all this exciting energy inside of you to connect. So you show up and you served instead of self-seeking an answer for something that really probably most people wouldn't activate, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
thank you for that. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for thinking of all the other people in the room when you asked that question and continue to show up for Level Up Daily and all of the things that you do. It's clear that you're truly doing it on behalf of your community instead of to make a community.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. I appreciate it too. And yeah, I just tend to double down, man, on the belief that, you can do a lot of justice if you lead, selflessly versus, selfishly, right? Per se. So be selfless, right? Versus
So
being
good.
selfish. So yeah.
So good. DeAndre, it was such a pleasure to get to know you today.
Yeah.
How can everybody stay in contact with you? I know on Instagram and Clubhouse, clearly, and Level Up Daily.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, those are the three main places right now. Instagram is where I live. That's where I stay at. So feel free to come on over, stalk me, tap on the follow button if you want. DM me, got any questions. I'm super open, transparent. Yeah, Clubhouse as well. Same name, DeAndre Evans. You're gonna see a little chocolate dude in a little blue suit. The picture that she just had up. I might not in his black t-shirt, these little headphones type of thing. Looking a little crazy, but yeah.
I love it so much. This is the part that's so fun about doing things like this is this is who you are on a consistent basis. You get to be that guy in the blue suit, and you also get to be the guy who's got the brand colors rocking behind you with the Fit Faith podcast and your t-shirt and glasses, right? I love that people show up authentically, and I think that we really are in this shift and this desire for people to connect with people who are real. And DeAndre, that is you. Thanks to your mama. We're going to give her second shout out. And just all the people who have been a part of influencing you, because I really believe you're influencing generations, not just one generation, but multiple based on the vibe, because you truly have this cross-generational just expression that I really love about you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. And you've been an amazing host as well. You've been crushing it. I'm definitely going to be tuning into more podcasts, hopping on here. I got to get the information for this app, StreamYard, right? Because I love that whole intro. I'm like, I need that, right? Whatever that is.
It's so fun. And I hope to see you on stage sometime in the coming year. So definitely let's connect again. You guys be blessed. Connect with DeAndre right now. Go subscribe and review to Level Up Daily. And let's keep doing this. Let's level up, y'all. Bye.
All right, bye.